Today we're going to review and install the new Auto-Vox AD2 dual camera 1080p dash cam. I'm going to be mounting this permanently in the car and we'll get some shots from it, and it's going to be part of a long-term test. So let's get started. Just got this one today. Let's open it up and unbox it. This is the official unboxing. So we see what's in the package. So this is the unit here, and it's actually got a magnetic base like the other Auto-Vox products. So you can attach this to your window and then just remove the camera as needed. Uses a USB-C power. Okay, cover on the side where you put your USB cord or your micro SD card. Also in the box, power cable and the rear camera. This is a 2-camera solution. So it comes with all the mounting hardware, including the double-sided tape to attach the rear camera, a power cord, and a wired rear camera. Rear camera sticks onto your back window or into the back of the car to film out the back window, and it's fully adjustable. They're both 1080p cameras, so it will record out the front window and the rear window in 1080p. I'm going to be installing this in one of my vehicles, and it's going to be mounted in my wife's car, so I'm going to do that, and then we'll take some shots with it. Here's the front camera. Sticks to the window. And of course the power cable. This one is the cable for the rear camera. Once I get this mounted, we'll take the camera out for a little test drive and see how the camera works. And I'll show you some shots from both the front and rear camera, but let's just take a look at the specifications. Specifications, you get, of course, the GPS mount. So this will record your speed and your direction of travel, and everything will be recorded. Your power cable, the video cable, double-sided adhesives. You've got the trim pry tool for putting the cabling in around your trim. So once we get this installed, we'll go over all the operation of it, but it is a 1080p camera by default. It can also be set to record in 720 if you wish to extend your recording time. Of course, recording in 1080p is going to deliver a much better quality picture than 720, but it's also going to use up your memory card quicker. It also can be operated from Wi-Fi. You can download the app for either your Android or your iPhone, so that you can control all the settings from Wi-Fi built into the unit itself. And you can use the Auto-Vox GPS player. It's a download that you would download onto your computer so that you can display on the map where you are located. So it's just normally the video just plays, but if you want to see where you are, you have to use their player so that it can read the GPS information that's embedded. Here's our specifications. It uses a Sony IMX307 image sensor for the front image sensor, 3-inch IPS screen with 127 degrees viewing angle for the front and 115 degrees for the rear. And it can take a SD card of up to 128 gigabytes. So it's going to store a lot of information, a lot of video on this. And I would recommend getting the largest memory card that you can find, you can afford. I'm going to go now and stick this in the car, and then we'll do a video and show how the quality is once it's installed. So before I proceed with the installation, let's get the camera set up. We'll put the SD, oh, it's already on here. Turn off the power here. Weird sound. Put the SD card in. Got to get it in the right way or it'll stick. Goes in with the label facing towards the back. Now, the nice thing about these cameras is that you can leave the power adapter, which this one uses the USB-C type power adapter. You can leave it attached to the camera at all times. When you take the camera out of the car, you just undo the magnetic clip and unplug the rear camera. The rear camera plugs in at the top here. So for the rear camera, you're going to have the one cord plugged in. If you want to take the camera out of the car, just unplug the rear camera, take the camera away and leave the mount behind. We're going to plug the rear camera in here just on my workbench. I'm going to take it out and mount it in the car. Just put the two pieces together like that. Plug that in like that, and we're going to give this thing 12 volts off of my power supply. Now, the power adapter also comes with an auxiliary USB port, so that you gain a USB port when you plug this into your cigarette lighter or PowerPoint. You gain a USB charge port, so you can plug your phone in as well, which is a nice added feature. Some of them don't have that. This one does. As I say, this one's going in my wife's car because I've already got another dash cam in my car that's already permanently attached. My wife's car's got the old, I think it was the old A03 or whatever it was, A08. I forget how, I've had it for years and years. But it's getting kind of long in the tooth, so she needs a new camera in her car. This is the one that's going in her car. I just want to power it up here first so that we can just go through the menus together. And I'm going to take it and mount it, and I'll show you the installation once it's done. And then we're going to take the car out and we're going to do some driving with it and check out the quality of the picture, because that's really what you want to see. You want to see how good the picture of this camera is and how it performs in various lighting conditions, which I imagine is going to be good because I've used Auto-Vox cameras before and they've all performed well. And by the way, this is the patented technology, right? How you apply negative power to one of these things. Just take a bunch of solder for a temporary connection and just wrap it around the terminal. That'll give you your negative connection. And this is a patented technology, so anybody I see doing this, you're infringing on my trademark, okay? We apply power to it, it comes up with getting started. Well, it doesn't say getting started. That's actually the label I have to pull off the front here. But first thing we need to do is we are going to need to, and there's the rear view, right? There's the camera, the back camera, and the front camera. Got to pull the little lens protector off here, but it does show both cameras. It's a touchscreen to set this one up, which is beautiful. I love it. No more fumbling around with buttons. Very self-explanatory. A little button here that turns the sound on and off, so you don't have to record your conversations, or you can tap it there and it'll turn the microphone back on. That button will stop your recordings and start your recordings. It'll start automatically, obviously. And if we stop our recording here, setup, here's where we can do our recording settings and our system settings. So I go to recording settings. Here's where we can select the resolution, either 1920 by 1080 or 1280 by 720. We're going to leave it at 1980 by 1080. Or 1920 by 1080. Loop recording, here's where we can set our time for our files. 1, 3, 5 minutes or off. If you turn it off, it's going to fill the memory card and then stop recording. That's perfect for if you want to take your recordings and turn it into a movie. Use your dash cam to record footage out the front window. It's great for that. In 5-minute mode, it's going to automatically overwrite the older files. Your G sensors, where you can set your G sensor to off, low, medium, or high. This way, if you are involved in a collision or any abrupt high G-force, it's going to lock the file. So typically, I find low is a pretty good setting for that. Date and time stamp, if you want to stamp your videos with your date and time, you can certainly turn that on or off, depending on what you want to use the footage for. If you're using the footage for insurance purposes, then it's best to keep that on. If you want to record footage that you're going to want to incorporate into a video and you don't want it burned onto the video, you can turn it off. Go into system settings. Okay, screensavers. This will determine how long the screen stays on before it goes off. You can select 1, 3, or 5 minutes. Language, well, that'll select what language you want to display. English, German, Chinese, French, etc. The date and time, you can set the date and time, or it should pick it up off of the GPS, but you can't set it automatic or set it manually. So today is the 16th. I'm not out where GPS is able to see it, or it might be seeing it, but just on the wrong time zone. If I select the hours here, it's 15:05. Good enough. Close enough. And frame rate, 50 or 60 hertz. We're 60 hertz here, so we'll set it for 60 hertz. If I tap here, it goes over to the next one. Here's where you can set up parking monitor, whether you want to have the system come on and record if it detects anything while you're parking. I don't normally do that because I'm not in a high crime area. Format, to format the card. So I'm going to format this card that I just put in here. I put a 128 gig card in, so we're going to format it so that it's ready to go. Time zone, here's where you set your time zone. Aha! So this is where I have to set, because it's going to obviously pick the time zone from the current time that it detects from the GPS, which is, I think we're 8 hours here. I think we're 8 hours. Actually, I think it's 7 hours. We're on daylight time right now, so we're 7 hours behind GMT. And that's that for the setup. Go back to normal mode here, and it's going to record. If I select record, it's got a red flashing little icon there because the GPS signal is lost right now, so it's not going to be recording anything. We'll just pick this off the front of this thing so it can actually get a proper picture. And same with the one on the front. Got the lens protector on here. So now we can see a little better. So here's a look at the image off the camera. Front and back camera. As you can see, the rear camera is showing you a mirror image. So what shows on the screen here is what you would see in a rear view mirror. If I tap this, it takes a picture. So if you tap the screen there, it'll take a snapshot of what's on the image, probably front and back. So if someone's being a jerk, you can just take their picture. Okay, got your picture, smile. Right, but anyway, there's the two images from the camera, front and back. And now I'm going to take this and I'm going to mount it in my wife's Volt. And then we're going to take this out and do a little drive around in the daytime, and I'll do another drive around in the evening, and we'll take a look at how the picture is. So let's get this mounted, and I'll show you what I come up with once it's installed. So this is the car that it's going to be installed in. It's going to be installed in a 2012 Chevy Volt. Currently in here, I got to turn that radio off, I'm not careful, but currently in here I've got one of these little cameras, and that one's going to be taken out. Let me just kill that sound before I get nailed. This one's going to come out, and it's going to replace that one with the front and the camera in the back window there, a nice dirty back window. First things first, we're going to clean the inside of the glass here, because if you want good adhesion with the double-sided tape, you've got to have the glass clean. And this looks like a lot of this is on the inside. So we're going to clean the glass first. I'm going to position the camera right around in here so that it can see through the glass part. But I'm going to actually stick it on right about in here so that it can see through the clear part of the glass. That's an antenna for one of my ham radio. It's one of those on glass ones. So we'll follow the same route with the cable for that and take it around to the front of the car. But anyway, that's where it's going to go. So I'm going to clean the glass first, stick the rear camera in, and we'll run the camera we'll run the wire from the front or from the back up to the front. It's typically the way to do it. Well, you can do it either way, but we'll get the camera stuck here. To attach the camera, just peel the double-sided tape, the backing off of it. It goes up like this, in this direction, like that. And then we can adjust the camera after it tilts up and down. We can adjust the camera. So first thing to do is just stick the camera up there like that and start routing the wire. Yeah, I've got the camera attached. I use the lines on the glass here as a reference to make sure I've got it in straight. So now we can just tip the camera up like it would face out the back window. We'll deal with the framing of it later, but that should give us a good shot, I think, out the back window, setting something like that. Let's run the cable up front. And the wire can be dressed using the included sticky pads, and then once you put the wire in, you just clip those down and squeeze them until they lock, and that'll hold the wire in place. So I've got 2 of them on the window. Let's proceed with the installation of the wire. I'm going to use the trim lifting tool to lift the trim here so that I can bring the wire around here and get it in behind the weather stripping to go up to the front of the car. So I brought the cable in around the trim here, bringing it around. I'm going to take it down the side. This car is loaded with scare bags. It's got curtain airbags in it. So you don't want to run the cable anywhere where there's a curtain airbag, because if the airbag goes off, the last thing you want is a cable flying at you at 150 miles an hour, however fast these things deploy. So you want to make sure that the cable is always routed away from where airbags may deploy. So I'm going to take it down the side and run it under the floorboards, run it under the trim, and then up the dash. This is an awkward car to work in. Even more awkward to try and film while I'm working. But anyway, that's the installation. It'll look out the back window and see a shot kind of like that when we're done. I do need to apologize for my wife's messy car too. Her car is filthy inside here. Look at that. Isn't that a disgrace? All that dirt. To get on to her about that. The trim tool makes it easy to, with 2 hands it's easier, but you just insert this under your trim and it lets you push the cable in under the trim and make short work of making a nice clean install. Let you hide the cable completely out of sight. So my plan had to change a bit because the power cord comes in on the top here. I needed clearance, so I couldn't put it where I really wanted to put it down here because I'd have to have it too low in the window. So I just mounted it up beside the sensor pack up here, just over to the right enough that the lens doesn't get this in the shot and it still sees the full front view of the car. It's up nice and high, and passenger might have it in their eyes, but if a tall passenger, but they'll see the screen. But it's out of the way, it's not in the driver's line of sight, and I can nicely hide the cabling up above here. So I'm going to start with the rear camera. I'm going to start it this way and work my way back so that I don't have any excess wire to deal with, and then we'll hide the rest of it in behind the kick panel down here. Using the upholstery tool, again, easier when you're using it with both hands, it's easy to hide the cables. I've already got the video cable. This is the power cable I'm dealing with now. I'm going to run it down behind, bring it around the front here, and then around the front and bring it in. The power point on the Volt is actually in here, so I'm going to bring it into that power point. That's the cable from the old camera that went the other way. I'm going to be taking that down momentarily. So when you're routing the cable, make sure if you've got airbags, or as some people call them, scare bags, easily indicated by this little indicator that says airbag on it, you cannot run any wires around here. Very important. You don't want anything, because the airbag is going to deploy down from here. So you don't want any wires in there, because if that airbag deploys, you're going to have them in your face. So you've got to make sure that your wires are routed away from any place that an airbag deploys. This is actually where the inflator is. So the airbag doesn't come out of here, it comes out of here. So it's okay to run the wires around here, tuck them in, and then take them down behind the weather stripping, which is what I'm doing here. The wire for the video is going to go down the side of the car, and again, I'll hide the excess in behind the kick panel, and the power cord is going to come around this way, and I'll take it around the front of the window here like I did before, and into the power point, which is right in here on this vehicle. Well, there you go. The camera is installed. Got a picture from both the front and the rear camera on the screen. As you can see, the installation is really clean. All the wires are hidden. You don't see any wires anywhere except for the power lead coming out of here and going in behind the airbag, but and the other power lead for my GPS, but that's fine. I've got 2 power points in use in there. As I say, everything else is nice and clean. No wires showing. Back camera at the back window. I'll show you that. So there's the back camera there. Now we're going to take it out. We're going to do some shooting with it so that I can show you guys the excellent picture quality that this camera is going to produce. And I'm going to do some shooting now, and I'm going to do some more shooting once it gets dark. So I'm now going to pair the phone to the camera. I've downloaded the software, and I'm going to delete this when I'm done, but just to show how it works, I need to pair it or connect it to the phone. So I'm going to or connect the camera to the phone. So I'm going to turn the camera on. Just use it on the battery here. I'm going to tap the Wi-Fi button. Stop it from recording first of all. Okay, the Wi-Fi button is right down here, so I'm going to tap the Wi-Fi button, and that turns on the Wi-Fi. So now I can go into my Wi-Fi on my phone. So I go to settings, and I'll find it. It's going to be called Auto-Vox 6A8E1, I think is the name of this one. There it is. So I connect to that, and it's going to ask me for the password, which looks like it's just 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, maybe. Done. Connect, and that'll connect me. Wi-Fi connected. So now we are connected to here, and it tells me I'm now connected. So now I can go back to the app that I just installed. Called Roadcam. Now I can control the camera from the phone. So I select the device, and I should get a live picture from the camera, which I do. So now this can be used to control, and I can start and stop recording video. Okay, getting file list. Okay, here we go. So these are recordings I've just made. So here's some recordings that are on the camera now. So if I want to play these back, there we go. There's a rear camera shot. My wife had the car out today at the Walmart. So if I want to pick up and all the front and rear are they're all tagged here. So I can play the recordings back from the camera directly onto the phone. And if I hit the expand button, I can now play the recording back. That's what the app is good for. If you want to review your recordings and you don't feel like taking your memory card out, you can just pull the camera out of the car and bring it into the house. And because it's magnetic attached, you can just unplug it, take it in, and you can of course watch it on the screen as well. But that's the app. You can just scroll through and see all of your images here. And we exit the app, and I shut off the Wi-Fi by tapping that. I think that's how I turn it off. There we go. Okay, so now if I get out of here, go back to camera. Okay, so by default, of course, the camera is going to record, and it should be recording. I think now, yeah, now it's recording. Our recording time that we have on here is about 6 hours. I only have a 32 gig memory card in here now. So 6 hours, single camera, almost 7 hours, 6 hours and 50 minutes from one camera. Of course, with both cameras, it'll cut your time in half. But a 32 gig card will do about 3.5 hours for both cameras. And it will support up to a 128 gig card. To play your recordings back, just tap the screen and you can hit playback here. And now all of your recordings that you've got in the camera here are available to watch. Just swipe across like that for the different images. So for example, and play. So that's how to play them back on the camera. Now, let's take a look at how good the picture actually is off this camera, and you guys are going to be amazed. I took it out in different light levels. I took it out in bright sun, I took it out in twilight, I took it out in the dark. We had a thunderstorm roll through here last night, and I got some great shots on the camera, and I'm going to show you guys. The only thing I don't like about it is it puts its logo, Auto-Vox, is burned on the screen. That's the only thing that I don't like, is that it puts that on the screen. I don't know whether that comes off if you are if you turn off the date and time. Let's just see. Let's just try a little experiment. Let's turn off the date and time. I think it's under record settings. Maybe. Date step. Let's turn that off and just do a quick recording here at my bench. I'm just curious as to see whether, if I do a quick test recording of me waving in front of the camera, I'm just curious as to whether it turns off that logo Auto-Vox when it turns off the date, or whether that is permanently on the image. So we'll stop this and we'll go into playback, and here is the recording that I just made. And as we can see, turning off the date also turns off the Auto-Vox logo. Excellent. Now I love the camera, and you guys will too when you see the video that's coming up now. So let's watch it. I wasn't expecting this. This camera records in HEVC, the high efficiency video codec, H2.65. It's still in an MP4 container. I can play the files perfectly using my VLC player, for example, but it will not import into my Adobe Premiere, as it doesn't support HEVC compression. So what I've had to do is I've had to convert the files over to a standard H264 file so that I can import it. I used Auto-Vox DVD video encoder, which is a software that I reviewed a few years ago, and it works great. I don't know whether there's much change in terms of quality as far as the conversion process, but it looks good here on my end. So let's take a look at some converted files from the camera. We'll look at the front and the back. This is daytime, so we'll look at the rear camera, and I'll also put some sound from the camera on, because the microphone's actually not bad on this unit. I was wondering why the file sizes were so small, and now we know why, because it's using a much more efficient codec, which it won't be a problem for people that have got newer editing equipment, but my editing, I don't buy into the rental software. I own my software, and it won't edit HEVC. So you notice on the rear camera that the image is a mirror image. So a lot of them do this. A lot of the rear cameras, it shows you a mirror image on the screen, and it also records a mirror image. So that's something to keep in mind, that the image is a mirror image from the rear camera, which generally isn't a problem anyway. So here's some sound from the camera itself, and I caught a guy that just doesn't seem to know the rules of the road. He's going to try and make a left turn from the HOV through lane, and watch how long I had to honk at this guy to remind him that you can't turn left from this lane, idiot. You can't turn left. And I'm sure he probably would have waited the entire light cycle for that left turn light to come on.
Idiot!
So there's the sound quality recorded off of the camera itself. Let's take a look at some darker images, and then we're going to go to like full-on dark, so you guys can see how it performs in pitch black. And I got some cool shots of lightning coming up here. So let's take a look and listen at the image in a little bit more challenging lighting conditions. Starting to get dark now. As you can see, the lights are on the car. It's looking a lot brighter on camera than it actually is, but it's now, as you can see, it's 8:47 in the evening, and I'm just heading out here. Those clouds are starting to look kind of interesting. Looks like we might be in for a little bit of a light show tonight. And sure enough, the lightning started rolling in about an hour from now, and we got a pretty good light show, and I got some shots on this camera. So let's just we'll skip ahead a bit more and look at the front and back cameras as it continues to get darker. Yeah, of course, here's the rear camera again in about the same level, about 10 minutes later than the last shot was taken. As you can see, the rear camera is still performing pretty good given the lighting conditions. The rear cameras aren't typically as sensitive as the front cameras in low light, at least in the experience of all the dual cameras I've seen. Well, now it's a little bit later. It's 9:19, and it's almost totally dark. As you can see, the camera itself is actually working quite well. Very little noise in the picture, and there's no stuttering or anything in terms of the frame rate. Everything is looking excellent. Say it's almost totally dark. We're going to skip ahead and do one more shot when there is no light, and get a couple shots of some lightning here, because I got a really good one coming up. Another look from the back camera. I'll shut up so you can hear the sound that the microphone recorded off the radio.
Women now make up at least 50% of all beginner guitar players in North America and the UK. In Southeast Asia, that number is more like 70%. Now that's interesting, given that it wasn't all that long ago that it was accepted fact that a girl could not play an electric guitar. Well, maybe they could play it, but certainly not as good as a guy, right? That attitude abounded through the 70s and 80s. But today, happily, that is no longer the case. Wallace, she was originally from California and started playing the guitar early. Her favorite was one made by a Canadian guitar maker named Bill Lewis, and that gave way to a 1958 Gretsch hollow body run through some Fender Pro Reverb amps. Let's have a listen to some early cranks. In 1980, they released an album called Songs the Lord Taught Us. It featured a bunch of covers, including an old Willie John song that had become a hit for Peggy Lee in 1958.
Left side of the screen, lightning flash coming up right about now. So I added some shots from today. It was a much brighter day today than yesterday, so this gives you an idea how it looks under high noon sun. As yesterday we had a lot of bright, well, it was getting later in the afternoon, so the sun was starting to go down. So I didn't have perfect conditions for shooting, but as you can see, today, good lighting. It looks great. There's the front camera. Let's take a look at the back camera, and then we'll finish this one off. I'll let this roll for a couple minutes, and then we'll take a look at the back camera and finish this one off.